Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. This is the sequel to the Rian Johnson film Knives Out. I think the best way to describe this to that film would be to say that Knives Out is sort of Lethal Weapon 1, and this is like Lethal Weapon 2, but I think I like this one more. But on a good day, I do like Lethal Weapon 2 more. It's more expensive. It has a younger cast. It's kind of dealing with a more precedent issue. Look up Lethal Weapon 2. It's pretty good. And it takes on more than you kind of think it is. It's one of the few big blockbuster movies. Yes, Knives Out is definitely a blockbuster movie. I don't know how much it costs, but it costs a lot. That actually takes on COVID, which is, or at least takes place during COVID. I don't want to say takes on COVID, but takes place during COVID. It's different in that you're like, oh, this is what a big movie is now, a big blockbuster on a Christmas release. This is so bizarre. That's sort of where we are. But this was a lot of fun and a very engaging, compelling kind of mystery. More so than I felt about the first one. Now, I think the last Knives Out movie is the closest thing to maybe sort of a mid-budget thing you can get. The first one was more about old money, and this one is more about sort of, I guess, new money. But it is interesting how they're very structured, very thought of in a certain way. And although they're not exactly the same film, and I don't want to say exactly the same structure, the only character that comes over is Daniel Craig as Bennett Block, and the producers and the DP and Rian Johnson and stuff. But none of the cast comes back, kind of sort of like a Perot or Miss Marple type of thing, but American. I don't think I've seen anyone direct kind of whodunit mysteries in a way that they really like whodunit mysteries. I think that's one thing that's interesting about Rian Johnson as a director is, he takes down these things, he deconstructs them, he thinks about the choices they made to become the genre they are, but he also is still a fan of them. You look at that in Star Wars, you look at that in Looper, you look at that in Brick, all those things, like they're all genre takes on certain things, and I think that is true of his kind of whodunit kind of mysteries. And you see that here, but he's taking on like various political topics, various ideas of the genre in itself, and also having fun with it. I think the thing I like the most of this is how he's having fun with it, and that's the most fun you can see as a viewer. It's fun to see a director like a genre, frankly. I feel like a lot of times when we see big blockbusters, like someone's assigned, and I don't want to do the thing like everything else is corporate and stuff like that. But the love doesn't always come through as much as it does in this movie. A group of friends who've been friends since they met in this bar called the Glass Onion, and one of them, Edward Norton, has become Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, rich white dude person or whatever, and he wants to get them all together because it's during lockdown in May 2020. They specified that date, which I find interesting, and he's going to get them all together, and they're all going to have this weekend, have a murder mystery, like, one of those game things, not an actual murder mystery. There's obviously going to be one because Bennett Block shows up and no one has invited him. They're not sure who did. And you have everyone from Janelle Monáe, Dave Bautista, Jessica Harwick, Catherine Hahn, Leslie Odom Jr., a whole mess of people, all there. Kate Hudson, I didn't say that, all there as friends, and he tries to figure out why he's been invited as real deaths go down and who is actually behind it and what mystery is afoot, I guess, is the broadest way to describe that. What is interesting is how it kind of takes on people's various, roles, not with everyone. I'd say specifically Ed Norton, Dave Bautista, and Kate Hudson. Kate Hudson has kind of played this sort of role before, and it just reminded you, like, hey, Kate Hudson is really good at doing Kate Hudson type roles. Why don't we let her do more of them? Why don't we make movies with her in those sort of things anymore? And I definitely think almost everyone who saw this feels that way about it. Dave Bautista sort of doesn't work because he's supposed to be like a Joe Rogan type, and I feel like Joe Rogan or Andrew Tate wishes they could be Dave Bautista. Like, I feel like that's being like too nice. They probably should have been played by like Jeremy Piven or somebody like that. Where like they have a lot of dumb opinions. They're very loudmouth. They're stupid. They're probably over exercised. You don't think they're cool. And it's like Dave Bautista did a good job in the role, but it's like still like I've seen those guys in that. let's not portray them in have people portray them who they wish they were. Because that's just, I think you're doing too many favors there. But I do think Dave Bautista tries his best to get that to work, and I think he does a very good job doing it. It's just like, come on. I don't know if I love the idea of that casting, but I get Dave Bautista's movie star, and I don't mind him showing range, so maybe it's just a personal preference sort of thing. Edward Norton, I think, was probably one of the most interesting casting, because when he's rattled off, like how they feel like they're the disruptors, and all this stuff, and like how they're like they disrupt things, they're so different and stuff. And I've definitely heard super rich people talk like that and stuff. But super rich people like that all had Fight Club posters on their walls, and having the Fight Club guy who did those speeches literally give that speech is, I think, very purposeful. My wife was wondering about American History X as well as the fact that there's an invention he has called clear that he spells with a K, which is probably very telling. It's also interesting that this they pointed out the date, and I think there's a big difference between culture in May 2020 and June 2020 that never factors into it, but making the distinction makes me think there's like some undercurrents going on there, or that they wouldn't have felt that way about going to this rich guy's house if it had been in June 2020 or something like that. They felt that was the safest date, something like that. I don't know. I wonder what I'd be curious about that, because that seems very specific. Like if it was like, oh, April, I probably wouldn't have thought that, but specifically, I don't know. The early months of 2020, I think, are very telling which one you pick, but not picking June makes you go, oh, that's interesting. I do like these films. I do find them kind of almost, I think the first one was like, if you like that construction and you're going through a murder mystery thing, you're going to like it, and you almost like Rian Johnson's a very structure heavy guy, and he's very good at that. He's very much a smart storyteller, and the best of that you could see in the best of that kind of structure kind of thing. I think the highlight of probably his film career in terms of structure, because whodunits are incredibly structured, incredibly tight kind of films. They're supposed to be by design. The first Knives Out does that very well. This one, I think, still does that very well. It does, I would say, kind of, I get what he's doing, and it feels like he meant for it all to happen. The end kind of veers into, I would say, like a little too blockbustery in places, a little too much in a lot of other places. But I'd say it doesn't, you don't feel it as much. This feels like someone who wants you to have a good time. Probably why it was so hyped to see in theaters. I saw it on Netflix, so you can't tell since I'm reviewing it so much later than Thanksgiving. But I could see this playing very well in theaters. I can see it playing very well with an audience. And it seems like Rian Johnson wants you to have a good time. It feels like so different from most holiday Netflix movies, where I feel like there's a lot of hype, and I see it and I go, I don't know, and I forget about it. This was like we were watching, we were on the edge of our seats and stuff. It was like we really got into it to a large portion of the film, but it did sort of lose us towards the end. And I think you can twist and turn so many times, but I think also the end becoming like, big movies do as big movies do. And I think when you get to there, you're like, oh, that's, I get that this was like, had all this money behind it, and you can read about that, and it was honestly ridiculous, but that just felt a little more typical in a film that like wasn't playing in that. I also find it interesting, the idea of wealth in these films, that you have one rich guy, a guy who got all this money, he did it through whatever this tech company is, which I don't honestly understand what it was. I don't think they ever explain it. It's just like, I don't know, it's Google or Facebook or whatever the fuck. Just go with it, and you just do, I guess. The last one, when Christopher Plummer was, it's like he's writing books. You're like, yeah, cool. I get that. I get that there are books. In this, it does, I think, look at how most people view the rich. Like, they want to be their friends. Like, they have these inner circles who they're basically bankrolling. Like, each time it's like there's one rich guy, and there's a lot of motherfuckers who are just like around that rich guy, who are just living off of this guy's obscene wealth, and are able to do so over their entire lives, whether it's a family attached to an author, or it's Ed Norton, a tech giant, funneling all these different things. And I guess the rest was a family. This one is a circle of friends. It shows a lot of, I think, how people attach themselves to the wealthy, the reasons they have to attach themselves to the wealthy, how they might not even want to, but they have to, and they just continue doing it, not trying to break away. It almost feels like in both these, the wealth has almost dazzled them almost as much as the main, whether it's Edward Norton or Christopher Plummer, because they feel like they that is the only way they can do it. And I think a lot of people feel stuck in those things. But I think as a person, it does feel like you connect to Benoit Blanc, or whomever he is helping, which is usually a young woman. And I feel like what's different about him is he almost like can't be bought, and these other people, I guess to quote almost SLC Punk, they like bought in hard and are totally comfortable with doing that. And it's almost like morally it's interesting to deal with the mystery of someone who is willing to sort of sacrifice themselves. What are they willing to do? And almost like that makes the wealthy the least trustworthy, because the one, although I think in this, like, yeah, you really don't know, you're not sure who did it or anything like that, but you do kind of feel that you have this group of untrustworthy people because they are not able to they refuse to sort of get the 9 to 5 or something. They refuse to gather their help. They have to use this escape route that they always can, which I think is true of all of the wealthy. I think they just like continually use their fast road, not like sort of gaining any real like self-respect or personality. And so they're just kind of in that. And I think you should see that in Rian Johnson, because it doesn't seem like he likes rich people very much. I mean, I guess he is a rich person, but he does not seem to like them or respect them whatsoever, which I kind of like, because I feel like we live in such a materialistic capitalist culture. It's so rare to see that, especially with a movie like this. I also have to say I liked Janelle Monáe. They were really great in this film. You just focus on them so much, and they get to have great range in this film. And they're just like, we don't get enough Janelle Monáe. Like I looked at her Wikipedia, and it's like really the fact that they have Moonlight and Hidden Figures, and like I think it's like almost 10 movies or something. We don't get a lot of Janelle Monáe. I think that's a shame. I wish we saw them a lot more than we do. But they're really great in this, and I think if anything, like the Ana de Armas being in the last one and then she shot up, maybe we'll see the same with her. Although I feel like everyone knows they're great. They are a movie star. You want to follow them. You want to look at them. And I think that worked with Ana de Armas in the first one. I think it works for this one. So it's like, yes, it is a similar structure. It feels like he's looking at what worked last time and looking at what he can improve. Rian Johnson looking at what he can make even better and harder and so forth. You know, I'm not in love with the murder mystery thing as much as everyone else, and I do like this film, and I did have a good time, and it was nice seeing like a blockbuster that's like this. Like, that's really cool, actually. Like, how did this happen? Like, it's like kind of neat. I liked it for all of those reasons, but if it was on, I'd enjoy it. It feels like a movie you could watch a couple times and just like have fun with. But it's not something that like, it doesn't bring me over. It doesn't make me want to watch a ton of murder mysteries. It doesn't like sing to the heavens about it. It's just like a very well constructed movie by a very smart auteur director working like, you know, financially to the greatest of his powers. And there's something glorious about seeing that the way Rian Johnson has been able to do it. And I like that about this film. And I think like, if you're into him and you're into murder mysteries, I think for the most part, this is a really solid film. I just think it sort of like veers off a little bit in the end. Not too much. It's not it doesn't ruin it or anything like that. I enjoy going through these mysteries with Rian Johnson, and I enjoy like diving into them each time. I just feel like once I'm done with them, they sort of feel like, you know, just like very disposable. Like I'm not personally that interested in going down that journey again, but I love the kind of construction and the feeling I have when I'm in it, as much as I think these films try to push, you know, certain political ideas that I definitely agree with, and like those ideas and interesting thought processes and things like that. I like it when I'm in it, but I don't think about it much when I'm done with it. And I almost felt like I had to review this soon after I watched it, just because I felt like I kind of forget it. And I feel like that about the first Knives Out. Like the only reason I think about it is because Twitter and film Twitter love it, and I have to hear about it and stuff. It's just not something that connects to me. I don't think about specific scenes. It almost feels like a really enjoyable, amazing experience that I then just don't really land with me. And I don't think it artistically doesn't, I don't know, lead up or something. It just feels like those kind of things. Like I feel like there should be something that speaks to me more than it does, and it doesn't. But I'm sort of just like comfortable going through the Benoit Blanc kind of mystery and having cameos and having all the fun stuff with it. And like I had a fun enough time. I'm okay with seeing another one, but I don't think I didn't rewatch the first one. I probably won't rewatch this one again. The construction of the whole thing just keeps leading me down it. I just never really feel like going back. So if you've seen Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, and would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like.